Welcome to the Homeownership Podcast presented by Movementum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. This series covers all things real estate and the best practices for buying, selling, and owning properties. Now here's your host, Sean Maloney.
Welcome to episode 137, Selling a Multifamily Home. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. This week I want to talk to you about selling multifamily cash-producing asset homes. These homes can be often easy to sell, but not every market makes it easy. And we also just went through a time where COVID-19 really changed the whole entire atmosphere of selling a multifamily home. We had renters not paying their rent. We had a government saying you can't force them out. We had a lot of different things going on that made it very difficult to be a landlord. It made it very difficult to have these investment properties sit there without creating any wealth, needing to be paid for, needing to be maintained, but just led a lot of landlords to say, you know what, when this all clears, I'm done. I'm no longer playing the game of being an investor. I'm going to take my money out of this and I'm going to put it into something else. That said, it also led a lot of people to say, I need more cash producing income assets because I did not have any, and when I lost my job, I didn't have a stream of income. So we have an interesting dynamic going on. We have a lot of desire to get into multifamily and a lot of desire to get out of multifamily, which means that we're going to have a market that really heats up over the next few months and continues to grow. So it's time now to think about, are you going to sell your multifamily? And if you are you ready to sell your multifamily? When selling a multifamily home, you should ensure your rents are at current market value if you have it and you're selling it occupied. This will ensure you get the most money for the property. Because remember, when a person goes to look at a multifamily home, they're not going to value it always the same way you value single-family homes. Obviously, there's some desirability. There's different things that are going to come into play, like comps and all these things. But ultimately, when we're looking at an income-producing asset, we're looking at how much income does it produce. What are the gross rents? What is the net earnings? How does the property take care of itself? Obviously, properties that are small with little to take care of with high rents are going to make people the most money, and ones with lots to take care of and low rents are going to make the least money. So when we have tenants in there, even if we think we're being nice, sometimes we're punishing ourselves in the idea of if we aren't getting the correct rents when we go to sell, people are going to do a valuation based on the gross rent multiplier. And when they do that, they're not going to want to pay you the money that your multifamily is worth. Because remember, when people buy businesses, when people buy multifamilies, when people buy gold, they buy stocks, they buy all these things, they're looking for return on investment, otherwise known as ROI. This is a big factor to remember because ultimately you could have a big, beautiful multifamily home, but if it's not generating income, if it's expensive to maintain, if it's not doing what it should, no one's going to want to buy it. Either that or they're going to buy it for pennies on the dollar and they're going to fix it. What do I mean by fixing it? They're going to raise the rents. They're possibly going to push out the tenants that are there. They're possibly going to dig up the lawn, get rid of it, pave it so that there's off-street parking, add amenities that are going to generate income for the property versus outflow. Because when we buy these, we don't want to be constantly maintaining tons of stuff. We want to be having this thing produce cash, get things that are there that cost money being paid for by the tenants. We don't want to just see big screaming lawns and things like that are going to be maintenance issues. They're going to be a cost to us unless, of course, we're renting to people that are seeing the benefit of that lawn, as in we made it private space. When possible, having private laundry greatly increases the value of the property. The more private amenities a property has, the more a tenant's willing to pay. So if you have just a huge lawn, maybe you fence it off into certain sections and now the rents go up because it comes with private outdoor space, private laundry, private storage. Maybe you have a huge basement where they have no storage because they're all common access. Maybe it's worth adding that common access into a hallway that then has doors that makes private access, and each one comes with a couple 100 square foot storage area. All these are ways to take common areas and turn them into income producing areas, which is ultimately what the buyers want to see. If you're thinking of selling and you have problem tenants, it's best to start the process of removal ahead of time. Investors who inherit problems want to pay less. So if you do have these tenants under rent, you have tenants that are problem tenants not paying and things, I know a lot of you don't want to deal with it, of course, and maybe you do sell it that way. But the problem is, right, whenever we sell something like that, we're going to take less pay, which means ultimately you're going to be let down. So as much as it is a headache, it's worth dealing with ahead of time and getting it ready. With multifamily, I highly recommend getting the property ready even more than I do with single family. Obviously, I'm always trying to influence people to get their properties ready because I've yet to meet anybody that says I don't want to get the most amount of money for my home. And the way to get the most amount of money for any home, whether multifamily, single family, anything, is to have it in the best condition possible. But with multifamilies, because there's so much, whether it be 3 kitchens, 5 kitchens, however many kitchens you have, 3 parking spaces, everything is in multiples, right? Which means it's easier to fall behind. So during the ownership process, you really want to make sure you have a good maintenance team, and as well as that you have access to those units before going up for sale. Now, I'm not saying you should just go dumping a bunch of money into a multifamily. Obviously, with multifamily properties, we only do the repairs necessary and the upgrades necessary to the level that the rent is going to pay for. I'm not saying that I condone being a slumlord, but I also don't think that you want to go in, put brand new stainless, brand new counters, brand new all this, if the rents don't go up based on the fact that you did it. Sometimes in certain markets, you're going to see the rents go up, so you do luxury rentals. In other markets, people who rent aren't going to be as particular, right? They're not going to say, I want granite and I want all this, but not have a budget for it. They love you if you do it for free for them, basically, because the rents aren't that expensive. But most of the time, you want to build a product that is what the average renter wants and assumes they will be getting for the price, because otherwise, again, you're just giving that away. One thing you can do is you can reach out to us over here at Movementum Realty. We can send out one of our Move Mentors, which is what we call our agents, and they can guide you in the process of getting ready to sell that multifamily. They can tell you whether you should keep it full or you should have the renters out, whether you should increase market rents or whether you should keep them the same, whether you should do some work to the property or whether you should leave it just as is, whether you should sell it now or you should wait for the market to change a little bit. These are all questions that they're going to be able to help answer for you. So that way there, you know that you're going to get the most amount of money and the highest, what we call return on investment. Return on investment, I already mentioned once, but I want to mention it again because a lot of people forget that this is a business, right? This multifamily home is an actual physical business. It's making money, it's producing income, and it's paying out to the owner. So that is a very important thing to remember, is that needs to be happening in the correct way. Now, when selling a multifamily, sometimes you're going to find that someone with an investment portfolio wants to buy it. And other times you might find that somebody who is just starting off, maybe their first-time home buyer, second-time home buyer, that wants their mortgage paid for by other people will buy it. Knowing the difference between the two is going to be important because investors, the ones that do these portfolio properties, they like very little to take care of. They like very little outdoor space. They like to know that the numbers are tight, and they want the units with good renters in them. They don't want to have to deal with them. People who are moving in to have the place be their own home, oftentimes they want them empty because they want to move in people they know because they're going to be living in the building with them, and they would prefer to have the renters paying the correct money and people they know. But they also oftentimes like more outdoor space, more private amenities. They like to have these things because they're actually physically going to be living in the building. It's not uncommon for people who are living in the building to claim the whole lawn as theirs. It's not uncommon for them to give themselves preferential units. It's not uncommon for them to do all these things. And they also, when they buy it, they get to qualify for the mortgage by utilizing the rents within the building plus their income. So that's why it's so important that if you're not charging the correct current market rate, that you get it going the right way, because otherwise these people will not qualify to buy your home, which we don't want to basically rule out either party, right? We want the investors interested, and we want the people who are, and I wouldn't call them non-investors, but the people who are going to live in and have the mortgage paid for by the tenants. We want both of them to be able to qualify for a loan. One of the biggest mistakes made when selling multifamily is to have put yourself in a corner where you really can only take cash offers or high net worth individual offers that can put those high down payments, because as soon as we do that, we pigeonhole ourselves, we end up in a situation where we're not going to get as much money. Remember, in a world, it's always about risk versus reward, right? The more risk, the more reward. So this means that the low income or low potential down payment buyers are actually going to be willing to pay more for the property than the high net worth, high down payment buyers, because you have a very risky loan. When I say risky, I mean maybe get the offer and it doesn't close out at the end. Not risky as in like potentially dangerous, but risky as in you may lose some days and not be able to sell the person. That person knows their risk level and they know that they are asking you more to accept their offer over the cash offer. So usually they're willing to pay more money. Well, guys, as you can tell, selling a multifamily home is a complicated and complex process. Reach out to us here at Movementum Realty. We'll send over one of our Move mentors. They'll help you get all the answers you need, make sure you get the most money for your home, and make sure that the whole process is a success for everybody involved. Thank you so much for listening today. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and tell all your friends and family about it. While you're out there, take a look at our weekly newsletter, our Facebook group, as well as our blog, all found under the name Homeownership. Thank you again and have a great day.